My girlfriend said, "It's my life. I'll do what I want with my body," after she got a tattoo of her ex's initials. I said, "It sure is." What I did next made her regret that ink forever. I, 31M, stared at the fresh tattoo on my girlfriend's wrist, the black ink still slightly raised from the needle. 2 letters intertwined in an elegant script. DM, David Martinez. Her ex-boyfriend's initials. She noticed me looking and immediately went on the defensive, telling me it was her life, and she could do whatever she wanted with her body. I nodded slowly and told her she was absolutely right. It was her life. What she didn't know was that those 4 words would become the foundation of my revenge. We'd been together for 2 years. I thought we were solid, planning a future together. I'd even started looking at rings, thinking about proposing next spring. But apparently, while I was planning our future, she was commemorating her past. The tattoo wasn't spontaneous. I discovered that much when I checked our shared calendar later that night. She'd scheduled the appointment 3 weeks ago, right around the time she'd been working late more often. The same time she'd started being secretive with her phone. I didn't confront her about the lies. Instead, I started paying attention. Over the next few days, I watched her admire the tattoo in mirrors, touching it gently when she thought I wasn't looking. She'd gotten it on her left wrist, the same wrist where I'd hoped to see an engagement ring someday. A week later, I made my first move. I contacted David Martinez through social media. It wasn't hard to find him. She still followed him on every platform. I crafted a message explaining who I was and what had happened. At first, he was confused. Then he was concerned. Apparently, she'd been reaching out to him recently, but he'd been ignoring her messages because he was happily married with a baby on the way. David was decent enough to show me the screenshots of her messages. They started innocent enough, just checking in, asking how he was doing. But they quickly escalated to her reminiscing about their relationship, telling him she missed him, asking if he ever thought about what could have been. The final message, sent the day after she got the tattoo, was a photo of her wrist with a caption about how some people never leave your heart. David had never responded to any of them. I thanked him for the information and asked for one favor. I needed him to respond to one message, following a script I would provide. He agreed, saying his wife deserved to know what kind of person was harassing her husband. Phase 1 of my plan was in motion. That weekend, she suggested we go out for dinner. She wore a sleeveless dress that prominently displayed her tattoo, running her fingers over it repeatedly throughout the meal. When I complimented her appearance, she smiled and said she felt like herself again. I told her I was happy she was happy, and I meant it, because her happiness was about to become very short-lived. The next morning, while she was in the shower, David sent the message I'd crafted. It was brief and brutal. He told her to stop contacting him, that he was happily married, and that getting a tattoo of his initials was psychotic and embarrassing. He said he was blocking her on all platforms and would involve authorities if she continued harassing him. I heard her phone buzz from the bathroom. Then I heard her gasp, then crying. She came out of the bathroom with red eyes, asking if I'd heard her phone. I told her I had, but I hadn't looked at it. She grabbed the device and read the message again, her face crumbling. She tried calling David immediately, but the number was already blocked. She checked social media, blocked everywhere. In desperation, she created fake accounts to view his profiles, only to discover recent posts about his pregnant wife and their excitement about starting a family. I comforted her, rubbing her back as she sobbed about how cruel David was being. I agreed that his message was harsh, but gently suggested that maybe he had a point about the tattoo being inappropriate. She became defensive again, insisting it was just a tattoo and didn't mean anything. I let her believe that for exactly 1 week. During that week, I implemented phase 2. I started documenting everything. Her continued attempts to contact David through fake accounts, her obsessive behavior about the tattoo, her lies about working late when she was actually driving past David's house. I'd installed a GPS tracker in her car after discovering the first lie. I also started reaching out to mutual friends, casually mentioning how she'd gotten her ex's initials tattooed and how it was affecting our relationship. I didn't ask for their opinions or make her look bad directly. I just shared the facts and let them draw their own conclusions. The responses were unanimous. Everyone thought she'd crossed a line. By the end of the week, I had everything I needed for phase 3. I waited until Friday evening, when she was feeling good after a few glasses of wine. She was showing off her tattoo to her sister over video call, spinning some story about how it represented her independence and self-expression. After she hung up, I told her I'd been thinking about her tattoo and her words about doing what she wanted with her body. I said I'd realized she was absolutely right, and I wanted to do something with my body too. She perked up, thinking I was finally coming around to supporting her decision. She asked what I had in mind. I told her I wanted to get a tattoo as well. Her face lit up, and she started suggesting designs we could get together, matching tattoos, complementary pieces, something that symbolized our relationship. I let her talk for a few minutes before interrupting. I explained that I'd already decided what I wanted. The initials of my ex-girlfriend, the one I'd dated before her. The one I'd really loved, but let get away. Her expression changed immediately. She asked why I would want that, pointing out that it would be hurtful to our relationship. I reminded her that she'd said it was my life, and I could do what I wanted with my body. She tried to argue that it was different, that her tattoo didn't mean anything, that she'd just gotten it on impulse. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots David had provided, all of her messages to him, including the photo of her tattoo. The color drained from her face. I explained calmly that I knew about her attempts to contact David, her lies about working late, her driving past his house, and her continued efforts to reach him through fake accounts even after he'd blocked her. She tried to deny it at first, then shifted to justifying it, then finally broke down crying and begging for forgiveness. She said the tattoo was a mistake, that she'd been confused and nostalgic, that she loved me and only me. I told her I believed that she loved me, but I also told her that love without respect was worthless, and she'd shown me exactly how much she respected our relationship. She asked what I wanted her to do to fix things. She offered to get the tattoo removed, to go to therapy, to cut contact with all her exes, to do whatever it took. I told her there was only one thing that would make this right. She needed to experience exactly what she'd put me through. I explained that I was going to get my ex's initials tattooed, and she was going to support my decision the same way she'd expected me to support hers. She would watch me get permanently marked with another woman's name, and she would smile and tell me it was my body and my choice. She refused immediately, saying it was cruel and vindictive. I agreed that it was both of those things, but I pointed out that cruelty and vindictiveness were exactly what she'd shown me when she got her tattoo while lying about her feelings for her ex. I gave her a choice. She could experience what she'd put me through, or I could pack my things and leave that night. But there would be no middle ground, no compromise, and no negotiation. She spent the entire weekend crying and pleading, trying to find another solution. She offered to pay for couples therapy, to sign a relationship contract, to get my name tattooed instead of having hers removed. None of it mattered to me. By Sunday night, she agreed to my terms. I scheduled the tattoo appointment for the following Friday. I spent the week acting normally, even tenderly toward her, which somehow made everything worse for her. She kept asking if I was really going through with it, and I kept confirming that I was. The night before the appointment, she made one final plea. She was willing to do anything, except watch me get another woman's initials permanently inked on my body. I told her I understood, and that she was free to leave if she couldn't handle it. But if she stayed, she would be there with me, holding my hand, telling me how proud she was of my choice. She stayed. Friday arrived, and we drove to the tattoo parlor in silence. She'd been crying intermittently for days, and her eyes were permanently red and swollen. The tattoo artist, a friend of mine who was in on the plan, asked if she was sure she wanted to be there for this. She nodded numbly and took my hand. I had him start the tattoo on my forearm, in the exact same style as hers. As the needle began its work, I watched her face contort with pain, not physical pain, but the emotional agony of watching someone you love permanently mark themselves with evidence of their feelings for someone else. Halfway through the tattoo, she broke. She started sobbing uncontrollably, begging me to stop, promising she'd get her tattoo removed immediately if I would just not finish mine. I paused the session and asked her how she felt watching me get another woman's initials tattooed on my body. She said it was the worst feeling she'd ever experienced, like watching me choose someone else over her, like our entire relationship meant nothing. I told her that was exactly how I'd felt when she got David's initials. The only difference was that she'd lied to me about her motivations while I was being completely honest about mine. She asked if making her feel this way made me feel better. I admitted that it didn't. Revenge, I'd learned, was hollow. It didn't undo the hurt she'd caused me, and it didn't rebuild the trust she'd broken. But it did serve one important purpose. It showed her the true weight of her actions. I had the tattoo artist stop and clean the partial work. What remained on my arm was just an outline, the ghost of what could have been permanent damage to our relationship. I explained to her that this was her last chance. She could choose to get her tattoo completely removed and commit to rebuilding our relationship with honesty and respect, or she could keep it, and we could both live with the permanent reminders of how we'd hurt each other. She chose removal. Update 1. It's been 6 months since that day at the tattoo parlor. She had 3 laser removal sessions so far, and David's initials are now just a faded shadow on her wrist. The outline on my arm healed and disappeared within a few weeks. We went to couples therapy for 4 months. She went to individual therapy as well, trying to understand why she'd been so obsessed with her ex and why she'd been willing to damage our relationship for someone who didn't even want her. The therapist helped us both understand that her tattoo wasn't really about David. It was about her fear of commitment and her tendency to sabotage good relationships when they got too serious. She'd unconsciously chosen to mark herself with her ex's initials right around the time I'd been ring shopping because she was terrified of taking the next step with me. My revenge plan, the therapist explained, had been psychologically brilliant in its cruelty. By forcing her to experience exactly what she'd put me through, I'd made her confront the reality of her actions in a way that no amount of arguing or explaining could have achieved. But the therapist also pointed out that my need for such elaborate revenge revealed my own issues with trust and communication. A healthier response would have been to confront her immediately when I discovered the tattoo's meaning, rather than orchestrating a complex psychological manipulation. We both had work to do. Update 2. We're still together, but we're different people now than we were before this happened. The trust we've rebuilt is stronger in some ways because it's been tested and survived, but it's also more fragile because we both know how easily it can be shattered. She's been completely transparent about everything since that day. Her phone, her social media, her whereabouts, her feelings. Sometimes I think she overcorrects, sharing things I don't need to know just to prove she has nothing to hide. I've had to learn to accept her efforts to rebuild trust without constantly testing them. My tendency toward manipulation and control became clear during therapy, and I've had to work on expressing my needs directly rather than through elaborate schemes. The tattoo on her wrist is almost completely gone now. Sometimes, in certain light, you can still see the faintest outline of where it used to be. It serves as a reminder, not of David, but of how close we came to destroying something good. We haven't talked about marriage since then. We're both still healing, still learning how to be together in a healthy way. Maybe someday we'll get there, but for now, we're focused on being present in our relationship rather than planning its future. Looking back, I don't regret what I did. It was manipulative and cruel, but it was also effective in a way that honest communication hadn't been. Sometimes people need to experience the consequences of their actions to truly understand their impact. But I also know that revenge, even successful revenge, comes with its own cost. In making her feel my pain, I became someone I didn't recognize, calculating, cold, willing to hurt the person I loved to make a point. We're both different now. Maybe that's what we needed to become to make this work. Maybe the people we were before weren't capable of the kind of honest, vulnerable relationship we're building now. Her wrist is almost clear, but the scar on our relationship will always be visible if you know where to look. Some people might say that means we should have ended things, that too much damage was done to ever fully heal. But I think scars can be beautiful too, in their own way. They tell a story of survival, of choosing to heal rather than giving up. And sometimes, the strongest relationships are the ones that have been broken and mended, because both people know exactly what they're choosing when they choose each other. She still says it's her life, and she'll do what she wants with her body. But now when she says it, she's talking about healing. Choosing therapy, choosing honesty, choosing us. And when I hear those words now, instead of feeling threatened or angry, I feel proud. Because she's right. It is her life, and she's choosing to spend it becoming someone worthy of love, mine and her own. That tattoo taught us both what we were willing to lose and what we were willing to fight for. In the end, we chose each other. But this time, we did it with our eyes wide open.